Welcome back. Reality TV director Nonhlanhla Dlamini debuts her first movie, I Am King, at the Joburg Film Festival. The film, which premieres tomorrow, boasts an impressive cast, including multi-award-winning actresses Florence Masebe and Nambitha Ben-Mazwi, with seasoned actors such as Nthati Moshesh and Hlengiwe, Lushaba-Madlala. I Am King explores the challenges facing the African continent, focusing on Africa's identity in relation to spirituality. I'm joined now live by the director herself, Nonhlanhla Dlamini. Nonhlanhla, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you have an illustrious career. I mean, you've, for so many years, worked on a number of productions, but many of them reality TV. Talk to me about this transition from reality TV to now a feature film director.
I actually did not see it coming at all. It was a stroke of luck and fortune. I was sought out by the executive producers and the producer, Roberto Carletti. Probably also know him.
Of course.
He sought me out and he told me about the story and about the script. And he said that he felt that nobody else would be able to carry the story in the manner that the EPs and the originators of the stories actually wanted to tell it. It took a bit of convincing.
I can imagine. So what was it about that script that really then caught your attention?
It was about the story. It was about the intention behind the story. Listening to Roberto and the executive producer, both Adele and Albert Rungo, I could tell that it was people who wanted to tell a different narrative about what we've always been seeing on the screen portrayed about Africa. They wanted to awaken something that was completely different and is normally and usually neglected when it comes to storytelling. What we've noticed on the continent is that we tend to focus on rom-com,
right,
on comedy, and on apartheid content and so on. And it just felt like, or it still feels like, we don't have content, movies and stories that reawaken us as a people and help us to believe and to reimagine a different Africa. Yes, all these things are happening. Yes, all these things have happened.
Right.
Are we able to reimagine Africa? Are we able to reimagine a different way of being within the context of the colonialization and the neo-colonization and all the different structures that have been set on the continent by our previous colonial masters.
So how do you think audiences are going to perceive this? Because like you're saying, we're so used to those apartheid stories, the rom-coms. Now and then we're seeing some of those heist stories and some of the social ills that exist within our societies. How do you think South Africans and the world is going to react to this storyline?
This is completely different from what everybody else has been doing, so it is something that I have been nervous about. The EPs are also nervous, but we have faith that on some level, audiences will give themselves the opportunity to introspect and to think deeply about the issues that we bring up, because the film brings up quite pertinent issues, such as corruption within governments and so on, but most importantly, where all of these things stem from. They didn't just come, they didn't just appear and fall out of the sky.
Sure.
It's institutions that were put in place over decades and centuries, going all the way back to when Africa was being divided and so on. How do we rebuild? So I am hoping, and the EPs were also hoping, which is what sold me, that we ignite those conversations within audiences so that we start thinking about how we can resolve it. There are no answers in the film. The film has zero answers. We are just throwing questions and we're saying, interrogate, ask yourself, Africa, ask yourself.
I want to go back to you as a director. I mean, there's a rarity of black female directors, especially in this country. Yeah. What was that journey like for you, especially in a feature film? I mean, you do have a production company of your own, so you've directed a lot of the reality TV shows that you've produced on television. But this must have been a very different experience, and I believe some of the seasoned actors on set were holding your hand now and then. Just give us highlights of those moments.
Firstly, on the issue of black female directors in the country, I feel that a lot of us do not get the opportunities that we actually could, and we are not given a chance to experiment and to learn it's almost as if you're put in position to direct and you are expected to succeed immediately. You don't have the opportunity to learn and fail. And we become so afraid as Black female directors to fail, because when we do, everybody turns around on some, can you see that when we do give women a chance, they actually mess it up.
Yeah.
And that is an unfair thing, because what you notice is that a lot of male directors, white male and Black male directors, are given the opportunity to fail. Like, they just go, oh no, it was their first film, give them another chance, blah, blah, blah. Whereas when you're a Black female director, you have to get it right the first time. Fortunately, I had a huge support structure in the cast. Florence Masebe, Nambitha, like all the women basically on set were holding my hand, but most importantly, the crew. The crew would come to me, because a lot of them, obviously, because we've worked in the industry for such a long time, and they'd literally come and whisper in my ear, like, don't forget, this is not reality.
So no B-roll.
This is scripted, no B-roll. No, because I'd be like, oh, guys, we need B-roll. Like, no, babes, we don't B-roll here. This is what we do. And the concept. So I was very, very fortunate to have a net of people that were rooting for me. And I was very honest from the onset. I did say that it is my first feature film. I am not going to walk on set acting like I know what I'm doing in terms of everything where scripted is concerned. However, what I do know for a fact is that I am a gifted storyteller.
And speaking of that, I mean, you mentioned that the story is based on African spirituality. What does African spirituality mean to you, and how does that translate artistically in this film?
Yes, when we did the screening of the film, somebody came to me and said that they understood that we were speaking about African spirituality, but we were showing it and depicting it in a different way. Every time we speak about African spirituality, people automatically assume that there's going to be thunderbolts and there's going to be doof, doof, doof happening. That is not in the film. That's not. I was very deliberate to leave that out. I treated African spirituality as a reawakening, a rebirth, as if you go back into the womb. So the main character, Uikemba, goes into a cave, which is indicative of a womb. And then there's a rebirth, because we all go through different things. We go through different awakenings. There isn't a one-size-fits-all. Not everybody is going to go off in twaswin. We all twasa in different ways. Some people will twasa in water. Some people will twasa by sitting quietly and learning to embed themselves in silence and listen to the inner knowing and so on. So African spirituality is not a one-size-fits-all. Not everybody wears obhlalo. Not everybody hits cowhide, beats cowhide dung. Not drums. Not everybody lights candles. Like, not everybody does that.
The same thing.
There is a cacophony of how we can express African spirituality, and it is allowed.
And do you think when this is then seen and watched by the globe, they would appreciate and understand it differently?
I think people are going to have different perspectives about African spirituality, but the most important thing for us with the EPs was that we need to have a conversation started. We need to start talking about pertinent issues as Africa, and the hope is that this film does that. The hope is that we all get out of the cinema after watching it and we have some serious thoughts about what is happening. We also understand where things stem from in order for them to get to a place of change. And like I said, we don't know what the solution is, but we need to start having those conversations as a collective.
As a storyteller and as an entrepreneur in this space, I'm sure you've experienced a lot in terms of getting a lot of your stories funded. That's a common thread amongst many entrepreneurs who move within this space. Do you find that there's a sense of funding certain narratives that are told in stories? Definitely.
There's the narratives that are currently being funded on the continent are reality, and reality that is unattainable. Lifestyles that the majority of us could never, ever live up to. The second thing is rom-coms. Rom-coms are a big thing. You'll see that streaming services are giving that a lot of attention. As soon as you decide to deviate from what you have been instructed to follow, then you will struggle with funding. And I hope that narrative changes. And I am grateful that on I Am King, the executive producers came with their own money. It is Black money. We are not answering to anybody.
Right.
They came with their money and they said, this is a story that we want to tell and this is the manner in which we would like to tell it. And they trusted me and I'm grateful.
I'm sure you are. Nonhlanhla, we have run out of time, but very quickly, it is premiering at the Joburg Film Fest.
Yes.
Where else could people catch the film?
We are hoping to be at the Durban Film Festival. We're actually looking at other festivals to send the film. It hasn't been solidified as to where it will be flighting as yet.
All right. Nonhlanhla Dlamini, thank you so much for your time and all the best. And hopefully there'll be a sequel that will be coming to I Am King 2. Fingers crossed. Well, that's reality TV director Nonhlanhla Dlamini debuting her first film, I Am King.